When he first saw it in 2016, John Reed knew this lot in West Warwick would be perfect for his landscape construction business. A flat piece of property in an industrial area in a town where land like this is hard to find.
We looked it all over, and I said, okay, I didn't even haggle the price. I said, sign it.
The owner of the land, 4N Properties, was dividing up a large parcel into several individual lots. Jared Nunes, a state representative at the time, is a principal in the company, but Reed said he dealt with Jared's father, Ron Nunes. Reed, who has been storing vehicles across the street from his house 2 miles away, paid the $80,000 asking price for a 1-acre parcel, thinking it would be a simple land transaction. That was 3 years ago. Since then, Reed has spent more than $40,000 in legal fees fighting the town and Nunes. The sticking point? This 40-foot wide right-of-way, called Nunes Lane, that Reed plans to use for access to his new property. Jared Nunes says that wasn't part of the deal. In the process, Reed and his son Derek have taken on the town, getting a first-hand look into local government, attending meetings where they were often met with silence when questioning town council members. When they couldn't get answers, the Reeds filed public records requests that help fuel a successful legal battle and have turned up other issues town leaders have been forced to fix. More on that a little later. It began shortly after the sale was complete in 2016, when a surveyor hired by Reed found that the deed on file at Town Hall was different from a subdivision plan the planning board had approved earlier in the year.
2 days later, I believe it was, I get a call from him, we have a problem. And I said, what kind of problem could we have? I mean, it's a flat piece of land, there's no house, that's flat. He says they changed the land description.
In a lawsuit filed in 2017 against 4N Properties and the town, Reed accused Nunes of fraud for altering the deed. Reed said he doesn't know why the sellers don't want him to use Nunes Lane. For years it had been listed as the address for 4N Properties and was regularly used as an entrance and exit way. Jared Nunes told the Hummel report he had no comment about the pending litigation.
We had talked about access, okay, because Nunes Lane is what I drove on and everybody else drove on because that's where their office was to get to this lot. And Ron Nunes, during this conversation, had mentioned about he was probably going to pave it and put a cul-de-sac at the end of it.
The legal process dragged on for months, with the Reeds having to answer extensive motions from town solicitor Timothy Williamson. Reed said he believes it was an effort to run up the legal tab for Williamson and for the Reeds, so they decided to drop West Warwick from the lawsuit to help minimize costs and focus on the Nunes. Williamson tells the Hummel report he billed the town $30,272 for just over 208 hours of legal work on the case. It would take 2 years, but the Reeds eventually waged a successful legal battle that reached a Kent County Superior Courtroom this spring. Judge Richard Leach agreed with Reed that Nunes Lane was a right-of-way. Even then, Nunes' attorney fought the decision, asking the judge to stay his decision while considering an appeal to the state Supreme Court. For months, this is what the right-of-way has looked like. Jersey barriers blocking the entrance with a large truck and boulders blocking the path to Reed's property. Reed said there was not enough property along the front of the lot to get his vehicles in and out. But it didn't stop there. Curious about what town records showed about 4N Properties, the Reeds asked for public records relating to the company's property, in part because of the deed dispute. Amid a stack of documents, they discovered the town had no record of required fire and building inspections for 2 structures constructed by Nunes. This building, which went up in 2007, has no certificate of occupancy on file. And this building across the street did not have a final fire inspection when it was built in 2016.
I know that I can't build a building without getting a fire permit and get a CO on it. That's never, ever going to happen, especially in the town of West Warwick.
Here you have a building in the town of West Warwick where there should be certain documentation that exists.
Brian Moyo is a landscape architect who the Reeds plan to use when they can get access to their new lot. Moyo has done work in communities across the state and was surprised by what he didn't find in the records at Town Hall for the Nunes property.
As things were being built, when wiring was being done, the fire marshal's office, the fire marshal being West Warwick's fire marshal, should have been brought to the site to inspect wiring to make sure it complies with fire code. And that was never done.
As you're reviewing the file before you give this occupancy permit, you have to make sure all the documentation is in this file. So if the building inspector goes through the file, he has to realize there's been no fire inspections. So how does the town issue you an occupancy permit? It's unheard of.
Nunes blamed the town for poor record keeping and for not performing the final fire inspection. In late 2017, the Reeds made a presentation of their findings to the town council. Within days, a fire inspector was dispatched to perform the, quote, final inspection on this building, a year and a half after businesses began moving in. The inspector found minor violations, which Nunes corrected.
They basically went in there, did a visual inspection, noticed that there were a couple of light bulbs out, there was a battery missing, I think there was an alarm, the buzzer wasn't working properly, and said, hey, fix this. But what was the root cause of that? Could it be faulty wiring behind the sheetrock? Or could it just be that a battery blew out or a bulb blew out? But how can a building official or a fire marshal sign off on something that they did not see built?
5 months later, town manager Ernest Zimilinski issued a 6-page report confirming what the Reeds had found. Zimilinski tells the Hummel report he could not guarantee a similar situation did not happen with other buildings prior to his arrival in West Warwick in 2016. But he said he has addressed what he calls deficiencies in the building department, including a new electronic permitting system that should eliminate future inspection omissions.
We're not perfect. We're not asking them to be perfect. But if they can assure us that those processes have been done, then I think then we've done good for the community, that we at least brought this to their attention and they fixed it.
When Moyo was looking at the Reeds' lot, he wondered about the materials piled up at the back of Nunes' property, since it was so close to the Patuxent River. Moyo filed a complaint with the Department of Environmental Management and later found out that 4N Properties has a history with DEM dating back more than a decade. We discovered that DEM found additional violations in a letter to the company a year ago, but a spokesman tells us nothing has been done so far to correct them. Nunes said he has been working with DEM to correct the violations. Quote, I'm not hiding anything here, he said. I'm working with DEM. I have an engineer and attorney on board. I'm entitled to fight it out just like anybody else would. Just because I have someone who is not happy with a land transaction 2 years ago doesn't mean that I don't get the same due process as everyone else when it comes to environmental issues. Back on Nunes Lane, the scene changed dramatically last week. Nunes, who was facing a deadline of July 27th by the judge to clear the right-of-way, had removed virtually all of what we had found earlier last month. But boulders he placed along Reed's property remain. Meanwhile, the attorneys met Thursday with a Supreme Court justice after Nunes' attorney asked for an emergency hearing. The justice declined to take action until Judge Leach holds one more hearing on the boulder issue, August 13th. Reed said he too was a taxpayer and only wanted the town to do its job.
It took us 2.5 years and almost $40,000 to get what the town should have known when I asked them to please correct this. I didn't ask them to intervene with Nunes. I just asked them, is this verified? This is a town plan. And at the beginning, yes, it was.
In West Warwick, Jim Hummel for the Hummel Report.
As the town is concerned, the town can't react to any judgment of any courts that has to occur under the jurisdiction of the Superior Court.